All right, little wrap-up lecture on the degrees of dimensionality. Basically, we're dealing with four basic categories: relief, one-sided 3D, work in the round, and installation. Now, these bleed into each other, and there are others, but to just have this kind of common framework makes you kind of understand degrees of dimensionality, and then you can kind of fill in the gaps. So this piece that we're looking at is obviously relief. You know, relief kind of require us to be able to see some sort of idea of the flat surface. And so in this piece, it's almost like a tile. A carving is a relief, right? And then, you know, it can move outward more. This is the gates of Ishtar, right? There's a little bit more of a buildup in this, of these clay bricks that kind of are coming out at us. And this can go all the way out to high relief. But again, you know, the commonality here is this reference to an inclusion of a flat surface, and then the form is built up on or carved into that flat surface, often built up on, or the back is carved away, so it is form raised out of flat surface. Then we're looking at, this is Louise Nevelson. She builds these boxes that are most typically displayed up against the wall. Hard to really call these relief because they really do have these like spaces inside of them. So they're kind of like one-sided 3D works. Now, you can look, she's got some out here that are freestanding, that are more like work in the round. And you could argue she's got all these one-sided 3D pieces, and they kind of, in this, they make up an installation, all right? But if we look at them singularly and talk about them as individual pieces, they are one-sided 3D. If I was standing sideways trying to look at those, I couldn't really observe the piece. The piece is meant to be seen from the front. Again, that idea of one-sided, three-dimensional, if I convert a whole room and cover a whole room, well, then it feels like it's installation. It's all around us. Another Louise Nevelson, one-sided 3D. This is a person by the name of Sadashi Inazuka. You can see here, these forms are very three-dimensional, each in their own right, but because he has them on the wall, they really read again as one-sided 3D. Here again, you can see another example of Sadashi Inazuka, one-sided 3D work, but maybe by repeating it so much and having covering all the wall of the whole gallery, it starts to ebb toward this. But again, individually, if we look at one of those circular elements of those repeated forms, just looking at one of them, I would call it one-sided 3D work. If it is repeated so much that it controls the whole space, then of course it becomes installation. So really, you can use any one of these degrees of dimension and repeat it enough so that it's really controlling the whole space to ebb into this idea of installation. Auguste Rodin, right, the thinker, this is a work in the round. The piece is a three-dimensional piece. It sits on a pedestal, all right? This is Robert Arneson, guy who used to teach at Davis, pretty famous localish clay artist. Again, a work in the round. Here is Anthony Gormley, British artist. Now you can see each one of these figures all by itself is simply a work in the round, but because he's repeated it and ordered it in such a way, he's controlled the space with it. It's now installation. Another piece by Anthony, I don't know if it's Gormley or Gromley. I think it's Gormley. Here, this piece is called Field, and it's pretty remarkable. He's done all these little pinch figures, had a bunch of people do them actually, and he's controlled the whole space. This is definitely installation work. Kiki Smith, if we disregard the pieces on the wall here and just focus on these birds, the birds are kind of controlling the space. They are somewhere between, I would call them works in the round. A lot of times the one-sided 3D work, its telltale is that it's against the wall. Right? If we go back to Louise Nevelson's work, it's against the wall. So, you know, these pieces by Kiki Smith, it's this repetition of a work in the round that's controlling the whole, you know, taking the pieces out on the wall side, it's controlling that whole space, so it moves into the concept of installation. So just to recap on these terms, we want to look at them kind of in their simplest light. All right? Don't make them too complicated, and knowing that they can flow into each other and there's subgroups, like high relief, bas relief, right? One-sided 3D work, then that kind of feeds into that. Then if it's off the wall, we can get all around it. It's a work in the round. Even a functional pot like a picture, this is a work in the round. Of course, it's to be used, so it's being held all the time. And then, if I filled an entire room full of pictures and you could only walk through a little tiny space, now it would be installation. All right. So just a recap on that, on the degrees of dimension. All right.